What's going on, you guys? It is Corbin Stuckey of PixelTalk here, and today I'm here to give you a review of Ghost of Tsushima by Sucker Punch. I've been a fan of Sucker Punch since 2009. Little known fact about me, my first PlayStation was actually a PlayStation 3. I never had a PlayStation 2. My parents were very weary of the kind of games that I played. I only played Nintendo games up to until 2008 when I actually got an Xbox 360. And then in 2009, I got a PlayStation 3 and started playing Uncharted. It was the best gaming memory to this day. I love Uncharted and anything PlayStation 3 oriented. But as I was growing up, I was so jealous of my friends because they had a PlayStation 2. And to this day, it's the most successful console in the world. And one of the reasons why I was jealous is because they had the ability to play Sly Cooper. I finally played Sly Cooper a little bit when I was in college, and I thought it was fun. I think I was just kind of too old to play the game at that point. It was too late for me to play that game, but I mean, I thought it was fun. I understood why kids played it. But the one franchise that really made me fall in love with Sucker Punch was the Infamous franchise. This has been a conversation that I've had with my previous roommate. Where is Infamous? Infamous hasn't been around since 2014. There was Infamous Second Son, and that was it. There was some DLC content, but we haven't really heard anything from the Infamous franchise, and we've been wondering what Sucker Punch has been doing. And it appears that they have moved on to a new franchise called Ghost of Tsushima. And I have been playing it for the past month, and I love this game. It's probably my favorite game of the year so far. I absolutely fell in love with this game. I think it's so good, and let's talk about it. So Ghost of Tsushima is the story of Jin Sakai. He's a samurai in Tsushima, and he survives this battle at this beach. His fellow samurai are killed at this beach by the Mongolians, and for some odd reason, he is the one that survives. Even though he should be dead, he is saved by this thief, but he should have been dead at that beach. Nobody knows why or how he survived this event. But because he survived and he's saving all these people around Tsushima, he starts being referred to as the Ghost. He's kind of like a folklore where he's just becoming this legend. He's saving people on this island, and it's up to him to stop the Mongols from taking over. This game is really interesting because not only is it fun, but it really kind of dives into samurai culture. They are a culture that really believes in honor and, dignity and stuff like that. So it was really interesting to see kind of this dynamic where this character is forced to do things in the game that to us are really fun, but as you're playing the game, it actually affects the character and it actually makes him super uncomfortable because he's going against his honor and his samurai code. As you are playing the game, there's a lot of things that you have to do and situations that you're put in where you just kind of have to play dirty, where you have to go up to enemies and stab them from behind. And as you do this for the first couple of minutes, you start to receive flashbacks from your uncle in the game who really believes in the samurai code. And you remember things from the past that say this is not who we are. We have to abide by this code. And I just thought that was really interesting for us as gamers, how we deal with certain situations and we take down certain enemies, but it obviously bothers the samurai, but he upholds this belief that he has to do this. He has to do this because the Mongols are very, very vicious enemies, and he has no choice in his mind. He has to do this or else the island is going to be taken over. And like I said, this is the first game in this series, and for a first game, I really liked the character. I foresee this character becoming a PlayStation icon. This is actually a really good game to end the PlayStation 4 saga on. It's just I want to see a sequel or at least a remaster in the PlayStation 5 because this was such a good game. And I fell in love with the character. We get to see how the character is brought up and what he went through in his past and kind of his family lineage and why being a samurai is so important to him. And when we see what happens to him in the game where he has to save his island and his uncle who's captured in the first minutes of the game, you see flashbacks, and it really builds up to how the character was brought up and where he is now. He's actually developed a lot throughout this game, and I really respected him. He's kind of like Captain America in a sense. I know that's such a weird analogy because it's obviously different regions or different character backgrounds, but it's obvious in the game that the character is only focused on saving the people and doing the right thing, even though that goes against his authority. I really respect that about him. I understood where he was coming from in the game, and that was something I was actually really interested about the game, is not just the main story, but the side quests. This game came out in July 17th, and I'm filming this in August now. That's why this review is so late, is because I was so focused on completing the game 100% and doing the side stories than the actual campaign. You get invested in saving people and taking villages back from Mongolians, and there are side characters whose stories that you actually get invested in, and you want to see how their story ends and if they achieve their goals. One character in particular whose family is completely killed by the Mongolians, and she's trying to figure out who betrayed her. And then there's a sensei mentor whose student betrays him, and you want to find this student and see how the story ends. There's just a lot of side quests that you have in this game that really take you away from the initial story. And the initial story is investing. It's the main portion of the game, obviously, but I wanted to see what was going to happen with the other characters and how their story ended. And I was just so focused on exploring this island. The shots where you're on a horse and you're just going through flower fields is so beautiful. Like, there's so many different things, like little even mini games that you get invested in to improve upon your character. And as you're improving upon your character, you're just kind of like absorbing your surroundings and enjoying the scenery of this island. One of the mini games is where you find these bamboo sticks across the island, and you have to strike these bamboo sticks by pressing these buttons in this specific order. It was kind of like Guitar Hero in a sense. And when you achieve this mini game, you gain this power called Resolve, which actually helps you a lot throughout this game. You can use your Resolve to gain health that you've lost or perform certain tricks and slashes on Mongols. It helped me out a lot, especially with boss battles. Like, I would probably recommend that you increase your Resolve in this game, because there's going to be portions throughout the game where the boss battles are kind of hard. And if you have enough Resolve to help you with your health and to do certain strikes, this game actually becomes very easy. And I like how the game gives you that option where at first it's kind of hard, but if you do certain things in the game and invest your time in the game, it suddenly becomes easy. And I liked how the game presented that. There's other things that you can do in the game to improve upon your character. There is one thing in particular that I was so just caught off guard with, because it just happens. Your character at some points visits hot springs, and they're able to not only gain health, but reflect on the story and certain things that have happened. And yeah, I saw that. And there's also portions of the game where you can collect charms, and these charms have certain abilities where you can reduce damage taken or being noticed in certain spots when you're in the grass. And to gain these slots, you have to actually follow this fox to go to this certain location, and after you're done at this location, you can pet the fox. I thought it was cute. I love petting the foxes. The combat is actually the best portion of this game. The gameplay is just, it stands out. There are certain things that you learn throughout the game, certain stances to approach different enemies, like enemies with swords, enemies with shields, enemies with spears, or just big enemies. And there's certain stances that you can take to stagger these enemies, and once they've lost their guard, you can just strike them with your sword, and it was just so satisfying. I felt like if I was overpowered at some points, I could even use like stuff like sticky bombs or daggers to throw at the enemies and just kind of get away from the situation or just take them down. I just loved the combat. I was so invested in it that like I sometimes lost focus of like certain missions, and I would just go out into certain portions of the island and take back villages that were taken over by Mongols. This game makes you feel good. You actually save people that are like being harassed on the streets, and you can save them. You're kind of like, I don't want to say a superhero, but like a folklore. Like, you're like this legend that is known amongst this island, and you gain the people's respect. There's even portions of the game where if you complete certain tasks, you can gain certain costumes and upgrade your weapons, which I thought was really cool. It kept me really invested. I could even change the color of certain costumes. I just, there's so much that keeps you invested in the game. Not only just the combat and just, you know, the different abilities, but like just changing your look, I really enjoyed as well. The character is also really good. I can't praise this game enough. Let's talk about negatives. There's not a whole lot of negatives. Like, there were just certain things that happened a lot in terms of glitches and things of that nature, and just the style of the game itself. These are more like nitpicks, but I'll mention them anyways. The game is not as cinematic as it could be. It could be just because I'm saying that because I played The Last of Us Part 2 before playing this game. But it just seems like, you know, a company like Sucker Punch, who's been around this long, should have better cinematics, in my opinion. But they're not bad. And I'm not really talking about the visual camera work. I'm not really talking about like certain shots or even graphics, really, because the graphics are amazing. It's just how a lot of the shots are either over-the-shoulder shots of characters talking, and they're wide shots, and the characters aren't really posed in certain ways. They're literally just like their arms are down and stuff, and they're looking at characters across from them. So that was my main issue of the game. But then again, like, the game is a game. It never claimed to be a movie. Games that like look like movies nowadays, that's kind of like an added bonus. Like, oh my god, it looks like a movie. But we kind of forget the fact that we're playing a video game. And in terms of a video game, this is really good. I really enjoyed this. Like, it's so much fun. There was one portion of the game where I felt as though there was kind of a glitch where you're actually, in the game, you can take back certain villages from Mongols and save these people. And there was one village that I was trying to take back, and I killed a lot of enemies, and it was telling me that there was one enemy left, and I was going throughout this village trying to find this enemy, and I couldn't find him. So what I did was I just kind of restarted from the checkpoint and then just played that village again, and then I was able to find that enemy. So that was the only time where like I was just like, man, I'm really not able to find this enemy. And that's another problem too that I have with the game is visible checkpoints. Going to one positive, one cool thing I like about this game is the way that you go from place to place. You literally follow the wind. You go where the wind takes you, and I thought that was such an interesting part about this game that makes it stand out from other games. Is like, it's not just like a checkpoint that you're following and that you see on the horizon, like a yellow dot or something. It's actually like the wind that takes you to these certain locations. So I thought that was really cool. But there are portions of this game where there's such a lack of highlights that tell you where to go in certain situations that sometimes you do get lost, but you eventually find your way. You just gotta really look hard and just see where the wind is guiding you. So it's not really that bad, but sometimes it does get kind of tedious. And another thing that I will mention too about the game is it's not really a negative because the game never really claimed to be this kind of game. So the Infamous franchise kind of has two stories where you can either be a good guy or a bad guy. It's very superhero oriented, and the game has different endings. In this game specifically, you do certain things that, like I said, are fun to you as a character, but you sometimes receive flashbacks from your uncle who's teaching you the samurai way, and he's telling you like, oh, this is wrong, this is not who we are. And at first I was like, oh my god, did I do something wrong? And I would sometimes restart the level to try it again. Then I start to realize, oh wait, this is what the game wants me to do. I can't approach this a certain way because this is what the game, this is how the story goes. So it's obvious that as you're playing the game, these are things that you have to do. There's not really choices that you do in the game. There are characters that tell you that, hey, you have to do this, and other characters that say, hey, you can't do this. So the game is giving you all these different points of views from other people that you're not really sure if you're doing the right thing. But I'm just gonna say right now, that's just the plot of the game. There's no choices that you make throughout the game. There is a choice that you make at the ending of the game, but that's it, really. Maybe the game could have benefited from, like, choices that you make and how you progress in the game and seeing different angles of the story, but I liked how straightforward it was. Honestly, I liked how it was just that was just the story. My main issue is just as a player, I was just so uncertain that I was doing the right thing. But I'm just going to tell you guys, if you haven't played the game, that you are doing the right thing. This is how the story goes. You have to do things out of your element to progress in the game, and it gets kind of dirty. So yeah, I mean, I would definitely recommend this game. This is so good. Like, this is probably my favorite game of the year so far. I'm gonna have to wait to see other games coming out throughout the year, but I mean, I think this was such a great game to end the PlayStation 4 saga on. I absolutely loved it. Check it out for sure. I think this game is probably gonna end up to be a classic PlayStation game for sure. I hold my opinion to that. Alright guys, that was my review to Ghost of Tsushima. Comment down below what you guys thought of this game if you've played it yet. Like this video, share it, and please subscribe to PixelTalk if you haven't yet for more movie reviews, trailer reactions, and gaming content. Thank you guys so much. I'm Corbin Stuckey, and this is PixelTalk.